from Tressa's diary when I had asked her on what happened when she was playing a different version of Toontown Online that I kept on my hard drive from an old Windows Vista laptop, and she had let me type this out for everyone who was curious about her change in behavior and why she felt pretty spooked. I hope you all got answers.
Entry 1 Sunday, July 25th, 2021. Hello there again, diary. It's Tressa Baker. I'm writing here again because of a rather unique version of Toontown Online that my brother found on the Toe website about a few years ago through a secret URL. This is what had happened. When I started this specific version of Toontown, it was in the Valentine's Day event, as the selected toon has the appropriate theme background. Now I love Valentine's Day, but I found it particularly odd since it's about to be August and Valentine's Day was not until February next year. But since this one was rather old, and considering the fact that I was playing on my own this particular Wednesday and also made myself something earlier, I was not surprised. What did surprise me, however, is that it was acting like the offline private server my brother mentioned to me, since I thought it would still have that free trial, but I saw no spots that would indicate that I needed a membership to create more than one toon. Maybe I'll ask Big Bro if you had a screenshot of that specific background for select a toon.
It was at this point that she texted me if the hard drive that had the installer also had the Valentine's Day toon selection screen so she can give it to me while I was with my wife at the time at Denny's having lunch. I responded back, saying that it had not, and asked her on what's up. She told me that the installer I had on there had a version of Toe that got stuck on the Valentine's Day event. I asked if she saw anything else beyond the screen itself. She said she hadn't, and she would do so the next day.
Entry 2 Monday, July 26th, 2021. Tressa again. So I asked him yesterday about those screens and he said he didn't. Hey, I don't mind, but continuing on from yesterday, I created my toon, a tall female rose mouse named Katie. I giggled a bit since that's the name that was from that recollection about Fallout Herald told me a few days back, but that's not the context I wanted. I did the tutorial as normal. After that, and playing a minigame is where things did get strange. I went to the headquarters. It also had some different textures, and it did look like that of the selected toon, although toned down slightly. I turned in the toontask and started another one. I saw that two of the toontask givers were being romantically flirty, one being male and the other female, with my toon. Although slightly confused, I can't help but to smile, as I was sorta expecting something like that. Also to note, there was a heart above their head showing affection as if they were doodles. Strange, but okay, I thought to myself. Shrugging, I continued on with my solo quest to beat the cogs. While there was nothing wrong with the appearance of the cogs themselves, the thing that confused me as well is what they were doing while in combat. They weren't naked or something as over the top like that, but I could have sworn they had entirely different battle dialogue and attacks, animations for new attacks too, but they were defeated the same way, so I tried to ignore it. But I can't help but to not shake the fact that they either love me outside the game or love my toon. Kinda freaked me out, to be honest. But I kept calm and soldiered on to beat the VP first. Looking back, I should have taken those oddities as massive red flags, so before I went to do the VP, I left the PC on with the monitor off to take a break from playing and to think over the red flags, and decided to quit the game for the day.
When I was told what had happened of the events of this day, I was not sure on what the fuck to think. Just felt so damned weird hearing what she saw. She also felt weirded out from what she witnessed and was relaying to me. It's ironic though, because I remembered something a bit similar that happened to me recently while I was on a Roblox role-playing game, albeit suddenly rather than have it be that subtle. Just thinking about that gives me a fucking headache, so I'll continue this story.
Entry 3 Tuesday, July 27th, 2021. So, I got the Velvet disguise and was getting ready to fight the VP. After I had told Harold what happened during my recent play, I can tell he was weirded out, though not to the same extent as I was, and he also looked concerned about my well-being. I told him to not worry, but looking back, could see why he would worry about me. As I entered that Velvet headquarters lobby and went on that elevator, saw what looked like 7 other players, seemed like legit players too. But soon, as they saw me get in that fucking elevator, rushed to come to my aid, and they also had hearts above their heads. From what I saw, there was around 3 girl toons and 4 boy toons, based on their clothes and the lack of lashes on the 4 boys. Duh. and nervously laughed, to which one of the boys, an actual pig, asked this to my coon, "Are you okay, Katie?" I froze and hesitated to respond but said, "Yeah, I'm fine." The elevator doors closed in the scene for the VP encounter leading to the battle. Still nervous, I and I assumed the 7 others watched the scene where the cogs had gotten promoted. Not much had changed about that, but when the VP looked at the caged coon, the coon was Flicky, who outright blushed and said that the disguised coons had came to save him. Aside from Flicky and the VP blushing, the rest was simple. Our coons had been forced out of our suits, and so begins the fight. So far aside from the attacks and animations, things were normal. When we beat the cog round, the VP was acting like a massive lovebird and mentioned something about a device that looked like those stereotypical Valentine's cupids. A device that looked like those cupids? I thought out loud, in which I typed the same thing out in the 7 others in my group, just as confused as I was, not that I ever blamed them. While he didn't respond to the inquiry I had in game, he did acknowledge that I responded to him. I'll admit I got to give credit where it's due to whoever in the team made this particular Toontown online. They really got the whole cliché lover galore. After that scene in the fight with the VP, I felt pretty relaxed but thought it would be the same for the rest of the cog bosses. Bleh. I'm just gonna friend those 7 coons and get off for now, and think things through, either tomorrow or on the 29th.
You know, it's not much of a surprise that the cogs and coons were affected, so to say that the cog bosses were affected surprised even me along with their cog cohorts and the coons would be a massive fucking understatement. I outright said, "What the hell, man?" To which Tressa agreed with me. How come I never suggested she recorded the gameplay beyond her diary entries? TCH, I shouldn't be getting my hopes up so high. Anyways, here's the last 2 entries.
Entries for Wednesday, July 28th, Thursday, July 29th, 2021. It should be fairly obvious right now that this Toontown Online is not as normal as it should be, but I had made some progress. Then I was told by one of the girl coons from the VP that the estates are not looking right. Asked if she was lying or if she was seeing things wrong. Being fair, when I got in the game, I haven't checked these states when the first catalog arrived, so I went to these states before I got to the second cog boss. From a glance, things seemed fine. Seeing that I have a very keen eye for details, I noticed that the garden kit was unlocked, but that's impossible, since it needs to be bought to be unlocked by default. Unless this was an intended feat for this client, that's what should happen. Another detail is that all of these states were a warm pink in color and looked like Valentine hearts. On top of that, the decor on the fence also had the appropriate theme as well, that in some images of your typical festivities for the holiday. After more grinding, I noticed there were more coons, around 8 or 10, by the looks of it. I approached and hid from them and eavesdropped on a conversation they had referring to some kind of party the cogs were doing. The hell? I thought. I know that I want to refer to it as Lovebird's Den, but this is stupid, as I either finished with that thought or just was more confused. But the progress, I had beaten the second and third cog bosses, CFO and CJ, within a 6-hour time span together, both acting like the VP to an extent. So hooray, for me I suppose. Was planning on holding off until I get my collective butt together and not feel uncomfortable as I am, but one thing's bugging me, and it's been on my mind for a bit. If this is a prank, it's not funny in any capacity. I met the CEO in-game today, and when I and another group got into that room after defeating the V2.0 cogs, when the doors opened for him to talk for that moment, I and my new group noticed that he seemed way off than any of the 3 combined. Instead of the white in his eyes on those stalks, they looked to be a hot pink and dark red, although they were barely noticeable. What was noticed, however, was that the clothes he wore was not found normally in the game files, unless directly modified. While the same, it looked like a leopard pattern, though white and with fuzzy trimming around the sleeves, no vest on actually, and he sounded like he wanted to love everyone. Coons included, but sounded reluctant. I feel like I can't blame him, but I feel like I wanted to sort of end it in some way, so began the feeding portion of the fight, and during the time of his little speech, he said he really wanted this war between the cogs and the coons to just end, and I can sense him being sincere about it too. It felt wrong kind of now that I think of it further. Were they originally going to make the cogs surrender? Or was there going to be a peace treaty between the cogs and toons? I think the latter option was there, considering the hearts above the toons' heads, the new attacks and attack animations, hell even the cog boss is acting up, thinking about it now. I have not seen a fire option. That leads to one question. Why were the clerks and the Toon Resistance HQ Toons acting rather flirty in the romantic way? My guess was that it was already Valentoons, which would explain all the changes to the estates. I didn't think much about it as after everyone, myself included, had fed all the cogs, even though it was expected that the fight with the CEO himself would have came after the feeding round, but it wasn't. Instead of that, the CEO says that he, along with the other cog bosses, had been talking with each other and thought to talk with the chairman to go for the peace treaty option, and gifted the whole group some things, and one of these was a letter to Flicky. He told us to give it to him at a time. After that, our toons did their usual animations after defeating cogs or cog bosses. Then we got transported to Toontown Central, and having nothing else better to do, I went to the mayor's office to see Flicky. Once I'd given him the letter from the CEO, Flicky at that point accepted the treaty order. After I was given the full story from Flicky, which was that once the cogs after the closure of the original Toontown Online have not been acting their usual selves after that big cheese invasion, all of the cog bosses and cogs in general who had it for the 3 weeks after the server shutdowns, but gave it all up, and the toons and the cogs thought about a solution to end it, either by surrender or by peace treaty, and we're waiting on someone or a group of people to be the messenger after getting past the 4 boss cogs. It made a huge amount of sense, but that didn't explain why Valentoons was going on. He answered that with it being done on the 14th of February 2013, but it stopped receiving updates afterwards. With a full story now given, I was able to relax completely now knowing this wasn't a bug. He thanked me, Katie, for helping to ease the tension, along with thanking the groups that helped me. Afterwards, while I was still able to play the game as normal, I noticed the credits were playing and acted like the one in Terraria, though the music that played was the game's instrumental cover of Still Alive that was sung by GLaDOS on Portal, which did not surprise me since this was a secret version one Herald found on that site. But still, how come no one at Valve heard of this outside it being secret? Well, whatever the reason, I have finally beaten this version of Toe. This has been Tressa Baker. I hope that I can be completely comfortable to talk about it with other people outside my family.
So, Tressa had beaten that Toontown Online secret version. Even though she was still uncomfortable, she was much more comfortable when she finished. We both hugged it out, and we both listened to some songs on Spotify. I just hope she can find confidence in telling what happened to her friends of her regards. But for now, she went ahead and let me type all of this down, and she'll verify that she indeed had played this way before she played any of the Toontown private servers.